Sorry for the technical issues. Yeah. So this is Rover, and it's supposed to be red right here, but okay. So this is the Android session. And before I start, can I know who has programming experience? And who has object-oriented programming experience? Very good. Okay. So awesome. We have a pretty strong team this year. Programming in 1 minute. We have variables in programs. It's a weird thing. Basically, you store things in it. And then you have conditionals, which is if-else statements. So who has no idea if and else statements are? While statements, do-while statements, switch statements, what-to-do statements. Okay, that's good. And then we have loops, which are basically... there isn't, I was just like joking. Most of them got the
That's an awesome idea.
Yeah, it's what-to-do statements. And then there is loops. So they are while loops. Okay, so for the sake of Scott, I'm going to show you an example. Okay. Oh, why is it so squishy? Okay, let's look at funny.java. So in it there's int Android. So Android in that case is a variable. And equals to 1. And iOS equals to 0. So can someone tell me what will happen when I run the program? Oh yeah, that's good. Okay. Oh, that's a nice catch, Scott. I didn't know you have the answer. Okay, so what's going to happen right now? Still oh yeah? Actually, I have no idea. Let's run it. It says oh yeah. Okay, so that is programming in 1 minute. Okay. Oh, wonderful. Okay, it just came back. So basic syntax, you guys know, as lines end in semicolons, you have conditionals where they're in parentheses, blocks of codes, goes in braces. You can read the rest. Okay. So Java in 5 minutes. This is an object-oriented programming language. So who can tell me what object-oriented programming is? Yeah, you. Making objects, wonderful. That's a tautology. Anyway.
You can define classes and instantiate instances of those classes, assuming they're not abstract classes, and those are objects.
Yeah, very nice. So you can think of objects as if they are containers. And then they have containers. Within the containers, there are variables. There are methods, in which you know as functions in the low-level language called C. That some of you guys are learning right now. And in Java, we have primitive data types, so you have to explicitly state the types. So you have floats, int, boolean. I don't know whether you guys have done with like things like JavaScript, where you do not need to explicitly state the types of the data structures. So here you have to state whether it's an int, boolean, char, doubles, and objects. In Java, we have things known as classes, which the gentleman has stated. So in classes, you basically have methods, and I'll go more into that as we go on to Android programming. Okay, so you guys know about this. You guys know about constructors? Yes, so these are basically things to actually instantiate the objects. Okay. Oh, interfaces. Interesting. Anybody knows interfaces? All right, you.
Oh, well, it's basically if you wanted to have a type of something, lots of things are going to have specific methods, but the implementation is going to be different. You probably use an interface, sort of like the abstract class with all the methods abstract.
Yeah, that is right. I like to think of interfaces as if it's like a mask where you wear it to party. And no matter how your face looks like, if you wear a mask, it's going to squeeze your face so that you look exactly the same like a mask. So he's exactly right in saying that you have certain...
Sorry, I didn't follow that.
It's beautiful. So in interfaces, you basically define some of the methods you'll be using. And then at the end of it, so when you implement an interface in Java, you have to declare and you have to instantiate some of the methods that is defined in the interfaces. So you forces the programmer to define some of the methods. Okay, so you have an interface called flying, and then within it, it has a method called takeoff and landing. So this is, I don't know what is this, general description of life. Oh, sorry, that was pretty lame. Okay, so let's go on to Android in 24 minutes. This, I don't know why there's an hour there. So what is an application? It's $1 million question. It's what we are making, and it's something that's going to run on your phone. Whoa, iPhone 5.
Yeah, no, that's
Okay, so what are activities? So who has Android programming experience? Just one person. Okay, so in Android, activities is basically what you're going to be seeing right now. So if you turn on your Android phone, and you see the first page, so this will be an activity in itself. So the activity will handle things like calculations behind the scene. You handle things like button clicks. So if you click on something, you decide what to do, what the app should be doing. So you have more than one activities in an app itself. So basically you have communications between activities, you have to close an activity, you can open an activity. So you can think of activity as a page in an app. Okay, so this is known as the activity lifecycle. So the first method that is going to be called when you turn on an application is that it's going to find the right activity to show you, the right page to show you, and then it's going to call the onCreate method in the page itself. So onCreate will be the place where you do things like, oh, deciding that I'm going to show this picture. What is it going to do when I click this button? And then you move on to onStart, onResume, onPause, onStop, onDestroy. So the other things are not really important, except onPause, for example, is important because when you close the activity, there are certain things that you want to save. Like you want to save user preferences, what the user has typed in into the text field. So this is where you'll be saving the stuff in onPause. And then you can just ignore onStop, onDestroy, unless you're really going to intense programming with Rover. Okay, as I stated, onCreate is about where you set up the initial views and everything. So don't worry if I'm speaking gibberish right now, because I speak gibberish most of the time. I'm gonna walk you through an example, and when I walk you through the example, it'll be enough for you guys to do the first assignment. Oh, one thing. So when you open another activity, the current activity will kill itself. So it will call onDestroy and destroy the current activity to show you the next activity. So you can think of it as like flipping a page in the book. When you flip to the next page, the current page will be closed. Am I making sense here? Okay, sweet. Views. Okay, so what are views? Were any of you guys here for the iOS presentation? Okay, Louis, what is a view?
It's basically anything that's on the screen.
Yeah, wonderful. It's basically things that you can show to people. So you have a button is a view.
a muffin.
A button. A button is a view. Sorry, pardon my accent. A button is a view. An image is a view in itself. So views are created with XML. What are XMLs? So XMLs are things that look something like this. You have an anchor tag that says, have you guys done HTML? Yeah. So HTML is a kind of markup language. So ML stands for markup language. And it's basically consists of text, closing text. So views are created with XMLs. I'm going to show you an example later. So just like put it into your head and then let it out in the ear. So in who wants?
It's the most beautiful phrase.
Sorry. Okay, so you create views with XML, and then after that you have to have closing tags for the XMLs. And then in views itself, there's something called layouts. So layouts is a container for views. Like let's say you want to put one button below the other, like another image, for example. So you have to have a container that says that I want to put the image on the top of the container and then put a button at the bottom of the container. I'm going to show it to you later. So what are common type of containers in the views? One of them is linear layouts. So for linear layouts, you can actually put things in rows. one on top of the other, or you can put things in columns. Or you have relative layout. So you can say that I want the text view, I want the text bar to be below the text view. And then I want the cancel button to be on the right but below the text bar. You can do things like this. You have table layout, so basically putting things in the table. And then you have grid view. This is very useful if you are like showing pictures of dogs, or like just images in general, or if you want to show tiles of different things like business cards. Or it has list view, which is very interesting. So list view is something like you have different rows of information, but the number of rows varies according to the information that you have. So list view will be something that you'll be using. Okay, other views, text views I mentioned. So this is a text view. You have a button. Image view. So there are more things that you can play with. I'm going to like show it to you in a second. Okay, creating layout. So this is what you see when you create a layout. It's a lot of gibberish, so that the computer knows what to do. But don't worry about it. We have something called a graphical editor, so you can just drag and drop, like what people do when they're making websites. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. So when you're creating layouts, you'll be typing on this XML, or you just drag and drop, and then the computer will generate the XML for you. But there's one thing to note, is that for each of these layouts that you define for a view, you have to define the layout width, so like how long you want the layout to be, and layout height, like how fat you want it to be. And there are three kinds of things that you can do. One of them is called fill parent, that you want it to fill out the width of the entire screen or the height of the entire screen. Or you want to have like, you want to define pixels. You can actually do that as well. Okay, so I think you guys are overwhelmed right now because most of you haven't done Android programs. So I'm going to make a program right in front of you guys, and then maybe you can. Maybe I'll just put it up the App Store so you guys can like play with it. Okay, so the first thing that you have to do is called Eclipse. Do you guys know what is Eclipse? Yep. Yeah. So just Google Eclipse. Eclipse is spelled like this, like the lunar eclipse. I'm going to send out the link to you, but you can just Google it. In fact, if you Google Eclipse, you get to the Eclipse page, and then click on Downloads, and then click on the Java EE developers. So just click on this, and then you have this thing which I'm using right now to do coding. So this is kind of like Notepad that you use for CS50, just that it is a lot more powerful than that. If you guys want to use Notepad, it's fine. I'm being sarcastic here. Okay, the next thing you have to do, the next thing that you need is called Android SDK. So you type in Android SDK, and you click on the first link, and you click download. Oh, I can stretch it. Yeah, download the SDK for Mac. So with Eclipse and with Android SDK, you can start coding. Okay, and one last thing that you might need, it's called this thing. Android Application Development for Dummies. I was once a dummy, so I got the book and it was really helpful. It got me onto the Rover team. Okay, so let's say you have already done you're done downloading Eclipse, and you're done downloading the Android SDK. So to make an application, what is the first thing that you have to do? Create a project. Yes, click on File. And then click on New. Android Application Project, assuming that you downloaded the Android SDK, right? So you click on this. And then you'll come up with a whole bunch of things that you have to fill out. So you can have an an application name. Let's say I call it Froyo. And then it's eugene.wang.froyo. Okay, so this is the build SDK. It's a little different. The main difference I would say between Android and iPhone is that for Android, there are a lot of people who are using outdated versions of the OS. Whereas for iPhone, most people just upgrade to the newest OS like within a month or two. So in order to make applications for the people of the older, more respected generations, we have to target it to Android 2.1. So this is where 90% of the users for Android is basically using. So click on Android 2.1. And then click on Next. Okay, so this is where it asks you to create, how your icons will look like. It's not important for this project, but if you want to play with it to make it look nice, you're free to do so. Okay, and then the next thing, when it asks you to create an activity, remember we talked about activities? So activity is kind of like a page. So when you click Next, it will just create a free activity for you. And the name of the activity will be called, main activity. Is up to you guys to try it. And you click Finish. And voila, you see something. Okay. I'm actually not going to use Froyo because I created a project called Lame, and I'm going to use that. Okay. Okay. So this is, okay, so when you click on Lame in Package Explorer, so some of you may not have Package Explorer. So what you should do is that you should go to Windows, Open Perspective, or Open Perspective, click on Others. Oh, there's no Package Explorer. Yeah, Show View, and click on Package Explorer, and then you should be able to see Package Explorer. So it's the same thing. Yeah. Okay. So in Package Explorer, you can basically look at the file hierarchy for your project. So everything when you expand Lame, you can see everything here. I'm going to walk you through what each of this means. So this is going to be the most important part of my presentation. I think it is. Okay. So you have source. So this is where you'll be holding on to all your source code. So this is where the logic of your application will be in. And you have a default package. So packages are basically like containers for classes. And you know that in Java, because it is an object-oriented programming language, everything has to be encapsulated in classes. Even though you want to do 1 plus 1, you have to put it in the class. So any file that ends with .java is a class. Okay? And right now you have the main activity.java. So this is the source code for the main activity, the first page that you'll be seeing. And then the next thing, I want to show you this thing called resources. So RES. So this is where you'll be putting things like images that you want to show. And then some of you might ask me, so what is a drawable? Anyone knows? Sorry?
It's a resource that shows an image.
Yeah, it's basically right. It's basically something, as the name suggests, drawable, so it's kind of like image. And then you see that at the end it says HDPI, LDPI, MDPI, and XHDPI. Why is it so?
Resolutions.
Sorry?
Resolutions.
Resolutions, right. Because the difference between Android programming and iPhone programming is that Android programming, you have different devices of different screen sizes. Whereas for iPhone, there's only one fixed screen size. So most of the time when we create an image that says, let's say the image is called Louis, and it's a picture of his face. So you're going to put it in one of this drawable, depending on what's the resolution of the picture. And then when the name of the picture is called Louis, you have to create different resources that is called Louis, the same name, but different resolutions, and put it in the respective folders. So LDPI is low resolution, MDPI is medium resolution, and HDPI is high resolution. So for now, for your first assignment, I don't expect you guys to like, create resources for all different 3 resolutions. Just put it in any one of them you think is right. Usually I would say like the typical, image that you grab from the web is about MDPI, so you can just put it there. And then what Android will do is that if they can't find the right image to show, they will do the appropriate like scaling from whatever image you can find and then show it up to the user. And the next thing is called layout. So layouts are basically things that contains views, as we talked about just now. Okay, so when you click on layout, you should be able to see this thing called graphical layout. There should be 2 tabs, graphical layout and activity_main.xml. So this is the XML that I showed you just now, right? Remember, I said that views are very messy. You see a whole bunch of gibberish language. Fear not, because you can click on graphical layout, and this is what you'll be seeing. So what you can do here is that you can click on the things at the side. And the resolution is so bad here. Oh my god. Okay, you click on layout, you'll be able to see a whole bunch of things. Linear layouts, relative layouts, things that I talk about. So layouts here will be containers for the views. You can't exactly just put an image in the middle of the screen. You have to put a container first and then tell the computer where you want the image to appear relative to the container itself. One good resource for layouts is this thing called Hello Views. So if you type in Hello Views, Android, and you click on this thing, it has a very good documentation about what kind of layouts there are. So there is relative layouts, linear layouts, things like that, and you can just read on if you're interested. But most of the time, we just use linear layouts and relative layouts. So just make sure you know what linear layouts are and relative layouts. So linear layouts, let me just refresh your memory, is basically putting things in a row or in a column. Whereas relative layouts are basically things where you can tell the computer, I want this button to be below this thing. Everybody get that? If you have questions, just raise up your hand, right? Like at any point in time, it's fine. Okay. So right now, can someone tell me what layout this is? No, you don't speak. You know all the answers, it's not fair.
Well, attacks a relative layout, so I'm guessing that's what it is.
It's right. Okay, so this is a relative layout. And then in the middle of a relative layout, so you can see there's an opening relative layout tag, right? And then there's a closing tag for relative layout, right? And then in the middle, what do you see? A text view. Yeah. So a text view is basically a view that shows you a bunch of text. In this example, it is hello view. So if you want to change the text, what can you do? There's one easy way that you double-click it, and then it shows you like this is a place. And then you see that Android, so these are the attributes that you tell so these are the attributes for the text view. And you can see that on the top there's this thing called layout width. So wrap content means that the width of the layout will be exactly the same as the width of the things that it is trying to show. And the other one is fill parent, so which I told you just now is that it's going to fill up the whole screen. And then the last one is you can define the number of like pixels. I usually don't recommend that you define a number of pixels. Even though we use something called density independent pixels, it is still pretty, it can get pretty janky. Okay. So how would you know what to type for the attributes? Each of these layouts has about 50 to 100 attributes. One thing is memory. The other thing is that you can go to graphical layout, and then you right-click it, and it says other properties. Yeah, and then there's a whole bunch of properties that you can have here that says text, what you want the text to be, the text appearance, what would I want it to be, or let's just change the text color. The text color. Oh dang, it's so small. Okay, never mind. Let's assume we can change the text color. Okay. So as you can see from here, it says that text equals to string / hello world. So where does string / hello world lies in? We look from the sides. So this folder states what layout you have, and then your views will be within this thing. The next thing that you have to know is that values. Values is the place where you hold on to things like what are the string values. You guys know what strings are, right? So basically a bunch of words. So what are the string values? Click on values, click on strings, and then you can see from here, it says hello world. So this is where we define our hello world. So click on that, and then you can change, this is the value of it. So let's change it to I like cupcakes. Okay, so if you save it, you go back to activity.main.xml, and you click on graphical layout. It changes to I like cupcakes. You guys see that? Okay, so this is awesome. So this is one, so activity.main underscore main.xml, it's a page that contains all the images and like things that you want to show for the page itself. So let's go back to main activity.java. Okay, so on top you can see that it says that public class main activity, the name that you actually state, and then it says that it extends activity. So for every page in Android, you have to extend activity. So when you extend activity, you can basically use some of the methods that activity has, and then Android, and when the phone runs the application, you'll find out the relevant methods to run. So in this case, it says that I told you about onCreate, the Android lifecycle, right? I told you that onCreate is the most important thing, and right now I just expect you to just know what's happening on create. I'm going to walk you through what I'm going to do in on create. So look at add override. So this means that in the mother activity that you extended called activity, there's a method called onCreate. But right now I want to override this method called onCreate so that when you run the application, you just run the method that's defined here. Everybody got that? Okay. And then the next thing that's very important is this thing called super.onCreate. So super, when you type in super, it means that you're referencing the class that you're extending. So in this case, you're extending activity, right? So when you call super, it's basically saying that, oh, I'm calling this class called activity. And I'm calling the onCreate function in the previous class. Everybody got that? And then save instance state is something that you have to pass in by default because the function itself takes on a variable called save instance state. Okay? So far so good? I mean, if you guys don't understand what I'm saying, just raise up your hand, it's fine. It's good? Okay, so this is where you'll be typing things. The first thing is that you have to set content view. Do people remember this thing? r.layout.activity_main. Do you know what it is referencing to? The XML, absolutely, the XML. And why is it r.layout.activity.main? Yeah, you can have the answer.
So kind of like everything's assigned an integer.
Yes. So everything, so right now in a program, you can't exactly say that I want to go to this file to get this file. You have to have a variable that points to this file. So one thing good about Android is that they actually, whenever you create a file, like activity_main.xml, they basically reference it for you. And where can you find the files is actually here. Can everybody see that? It's in the gen folder. It says generated Java files. And if you double click it, go on to r.java. So as you can see, this is automatically generated by the computer. And do you guys see this thing? Activity_main. So everything that you put in the layout folder, they'll basically reference it for you here. That's why it's very important that you do not change any names. So let's say you change it to drawable without an A. Basically the program will not compile itself. Yeah. So right now we have activity_main.xml, and here they reference it for you, so that when you go back to your program, you can set content view, and then you type in r.layout, which means that I want to go into the layouts folder, and then you click .activity_.main. And then the next question is that some people might say that, hey, this is really long. How do I remember what is the name of everything? Do I have to type in everything? The good thing is that in Eclipse, they actually auto-complete it for you. If you type R and you type dot, it shows you things to choose from. So just remember it's a layout, so you just go to layout and you type dot, and then there's like things you can choose from again, activity_.main. So it's really simple in a sense. Okay. So now I'm going to walk you through, wait, any questions at this point in time? Everybody understand what's happening? Okay. So right now I want to put in a button. Can someone tell me where do I go to put in the button? The XML file. Yes. So I go into activity_main.xml. Okay. And how should I get the button? There's one that says form widgets. This is a cheat way of doing it. So what I can do is that I just pull it, I drop it, I just drop it here. Looks good? Okay. And then you go back to your XML file to see what exactly is happening. So everybody see that there's a button tag, right? So this chunk of code represents the button that we just added. And remember this line, it says Android:ID equals to something. So this, when you see ID equals to something, it means that this is the name of the button. So you need the name to reference it in your program. So right now it's called button1, but then I don't think that's a good name. So let's say I call it button cupcake. Okay, so this will be the name I will be referencing. And you go back to main_activity.java. So right now I want to reference the button that I just added to the activity_.main. What I can do is that I define a variable called button first, and with a capital B. So this is a class. Button is a class. Button btn equals to find view. Okay, so you need this method called find view by ID. So this is a method that if you type in, it gives it to you right away. And it's good to remember that there's this method called find view by ID. And it's basically that if you give it an ID, it's going to give you the class called button, a button. So you type in r.id. Did everybody see that coming up? r.id.button cupcakes. Okay. So right now, first problem. Why is this highlighted red? Yeah. Yes, you have to import it because you didn't create the object called button. You have to import certain code. And there's one easy way to do it. That is, you go to this thing, the light bulb here, you click it. It says import button, you just clicked it. And then they import it for you. And then right now, this is highlighted. Can someone tell me why? Okay, nobody has an answer. Okay, I'm just going to give the answer. Later. Okay, so finding view by ID, yeah. Finding views by ID returns you a view, but it does not return you a button. A button is a subset of this thing called views. So you have to do something called casting. I'm not sure if you guys have done it in CS50. Remember there was like casting, doubles to floats, things like that. Yeah. So you have to cast it, and the way Java does it is that you have an open and closing bracket and you type in button. This is the hard way of doing it. The easy way is that when you see something highlighted, just double click it, just click the light bulb and it says that add caster button, just double click it. Awesome. So Java programming is really easy. Okay. Yep, so we got the button. And right now we want to do something. If we click on the button. So how do we do that? I don't think anybody has an answer, so I'm going to do something called... So this is called events. I think it's called event programming. So where you actually click on something, you create an event. So when the user clicks on the button, it tells the program to create something, that it throws something in the air. And then you have to catch this thing, and then you do something according to it. So button.setOnClickListener. So setOnClickListener means that I'm telling the button that the listener basically listens for an event. So everybody got that? That's why it's called listener. And then what listener do I set it to? I'm going to create a new object for the listener. So I type in new. So new basically is a constructor for Java. View.onClickListener. So how do I make that appear? There's a shortcut. If you type Control space, it's going to appear, and you just click Enter, and then it generates everything for you. Okay, there's a whole bunch of underlined stuff. Click on that. You have to import the stuff. Okay, you just imported the relevant stuff. So this is where this states that, so here, you'll be typing in code that will be run when the person clicks on the button. So what do you want to be run? Let's say I'm going to change the color of the button when you click on it. So button dot set background color. Background dark. Okay. Yep.
Is on-click listener an interface or an abstract class?
On-click listener is an interface. Yeah. So far so good. Everybody got that? So this is what we call a programming idiom, which means that you see this kind of design all the time, where you will set on-click listener, where you set a listener. So as you go on, you find that there are more listeners, things like on layout change listener and things like that. And then you have to put in an interface. So in this case, you have to type new and then an interface in, and then here you put in the chunk of code that you want to do. So I'm going to run this program and show you some magic. Okay. So how to run the program? There's this run button here. You click on it, and then they have something called an emulator. So basically, if you don't have the device, it's fine. You can run the program on your computer. Where is it? Okay, so the screen is too small. But this basically is an emulator for the Android app. And this is the app that we just made just now, right? There's a text view and there's a button. So what happens when you click on the button? Yep, it changes to whatever color we want it to be. It changed to background underscore light. So yeah. So everybody got that so far? Yep. So this is basically, I think, what you need for your assignment. And there's one last thing I'm going to tell you need for your assignment, but I wouldn't be teaching you now. I just want you to find out information and find out that whether you guys can read up documentations and actually find out how things work behind. So this is as much spoon feeding that I'm going to give you. So the next thing you need, okay, for the assignment, let me just talk about the assignment a little. Okay, I'm just going to race through everything. Okay, assignment. Yes. Assignment. You need resources. I told you about hello views. And this is documentation for the assignment, for Android basically. Oh, what happened to my assignment? Yes, here is it. Okay, it's too big for the screen. Okay, first thing you have to do. Download Eclipse, download the Android SDK, and then you have to create, I'm going to ask you to create your first application. It's going to look very similar to what I've gone through just now, so it shouldn't be much of a problem. I mean, the first assignment is to get you guys acquainted to Eclipse, acquainted to programming with Java, so I'm not weeding out people at this point in time. So if you can get through the assignment, which is going to be very easy, you're still basically in the core. So the objective of it is that you understand views, how they're made, how to create activities. And I have instructions here for where to download Eclipse and where you should be doing, where the Android SDK documentations are. Okay, so assignment. You can read this part. I basically want you to create an application with 2 activities. So just now I only created 1 activity, right? So I want you guys to create 2 activities. So basically an app with 2 pages. So in the source, there's a source, there's a source folder, there's main activity.java. You can create another file called like second page.java. And then within that, you should have a button on each of the page. And then when you click on the first button, it brings you to the second page. And then when you click on the second button, it brings you to the first page, back to the first page. So it sounds complicated right now. I'm going to give you a bit of hint. You need 2 Java files for your source code. You need 2 XML files for the pages that you want to show. And there's one last thing you need. You need something called an intent. So if you want to Google, it's called intent. Android. Yep. You might want to read up on this. So this is what I didn't spoon feed you guys. I just want to see whether you guys can read up on what exactly is intent. So to queue an activity and to start the next activity, you need an intent. So just read up on it. If you have problems, I have office hours. So when is it due? It's due on Friday, 20th of September. Basically the same time as the iOS, but it's due at 5 p.m. instead of 11:59. Just because I'm playing computer games at night, I don't want like my mail to have notifications popping up. I'm saving the world right here on my computer, so this is me. So it's due at 5 p.m. I have office hours on Thursday from 2 to 4. It's the same place where you guys have the info session. It's basically the Rover office. So you can drop by 2 to 4 if you have any problems, you're stuck on your assignment, or you just can't install it. You can shoot me an email, or you can just drop by. Or if before that you want to get started on your assignment, you can always like email me to say that you want to meet up for real quick. You have like some problems with installing. I'm always there. I can just set up something with you guys, a meeting with you or something. All right, awesome. Any questions, anyone? You guys still interested in Android? Awesome. Okay, if there's no questions, yeah, you guys can like start packing up. All right, thank you.